Hey, everyone! Welcome back to Hey English, your favorite podcast where we talk about all things English. This is episode number 15. I'm Philip.
And I'm Sara. Thanks for joining us today. We're here to help you improve your English skills while chatting about interesting topics. So, grab a comfy seat and let's dive in.
Today, we've got a great episode lined up for you. We're talking about something that's super important to all of us: family and relationships.
That's right. We'll be sharing some fun stories, useful vocabulary, and even a few idioms and grammar tips along the way. Whether you're a beginner or just looking to brush up on your skills, there's something here for everyone.
And remember, we're not just here to teach, we're here to have a good time with you. So, feel free to join the conversation in the comments below. Let us know what family means to you or share your favorite English idiom about relationships.
Absolutely. We love hearing from you. So, without further ado, let's jump into today's topic: family and relationships. We promise it'll be both educational and fun.
So, Sarah, when you hear the word family, what comes to mind?
For me, family means the people who are always there for you, whether they're related by blood or just really close friends. You know, like your immediate family, which includes your parents and siblings, or your extended family, like cousins, aunts, and uncles.
Totally! And don't forget about chosen family, the friends who become like family. It's such an interesting concept because it shows how relationships can be just as strong, even without being related.
Exactly. Speaking of relationships, have you ever heard the saying blood is thicker than water? It means that family relationships are stronger and more important than friendships. But there's also the saying family ties are stronger than we think, which emphasizes the strong bond within a family, even when you don't always get along.
Yeah, idioms like those really capture the essence of family. And what about the grammar side of things? When we're talking about family, we often use possessive nouns. Like, my brother's friend or Sarah's parents. It's a simple rule, but it's crucial for showing ownership in relationships.
Right. It's interesting how we use these small words to show connections. And speaking of connections, how would you describe the relationship between siblings? For example, are you and your sister close?
Oh, absolutely. We're really close, but we also have our moments of arguing, like all siblings do. But at the end of the day, we always support each other.
That's great. I think that's true for a lot of siblings. And it's nice to know those relationships can grow stronger over time. So, whether it's through sharing moments or having little arguments, those connections are what make family so special.
Definitely. And to all our viewers out there, we'd love to hear about your family experiences. What does family mean to you? Do you have any favorite idioms or phrases about family? Let us know in the comments.
Yes, please do. And don't worry if you're not sure about the grammar or vocabulary, this is a safe space to learn and practice. We're all here to improve together.
So, we've talked a bit about family, but what about other kinds of relationships? There are so many different types, like friendships, romantic relationships, and even work relationships.
That's true. Each type has its own unique dynamics. For example, let's talk about friendships. Friends can be people you've known forever or someone you just met, like an acquaintance. They can become some of the most important people in your life.
Absolutely. And then there are romantic relationships, which can be really special. You might call your partner your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, or just partner. And when things get serious, you might even talk about getting married or becoming life partners.
And let's not forget about work relationships. These can range from casual acquaintances at work to closer connections with a colleague or mentor. Building good work relationships can make your job more enjoyable and even help you grow professionally.
True, work relationships are so important. Have you ever heard the phrase, birds of a feather flock together? It means people who are similar tend to stick together. You often see this in friendships and even in professional settings.
Yes, and speaking of phrases, there's also hit it off, which means to immediately get along with someone. It's such a positive way to describe those instant connections, whether they're with friends, coworkers, or even potential partners.
Exactly. And when we're describing these relationships, we often use comparatives and superlatives. For example, closer or closest to describe how tight-knit a relationship is. Like, Sarah and I are close friends, or she's my closest friend.
That's a great point. It's all about expressing the degree of connection. And it's fascinating how these different types of relationships contribute to our lives in various ways. They offer support, companionship, and even challenges that help us grow.
Yeah, relationships are such a big part of who we are. And speaking of connections, we'd love to hear about your experiences with different types of relationships. Do you have a best friend, a significant other, or a mentor who's had a big impact on your life? Share your stories with us in the comments.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. And remember, whether you're describing a friendship, a romantic relationship, or a professional one, it's all about communication and understanding. So, don't hesitate to practice your English with us.
Speaking of different types of relationships, one thing that's absolutely key to all of them is communication. Whether it's with friends, family, or coworkers, being able to express yourself clearly is so important.
Totally agree. Good communication can really make or break a relationship. It's not just about talking, it's also about listening and understanding. For example, if there's a disagreement, it's important to discuss it rather than just argue. That way, you can find a solution together.
Exactly. And sometimes, it's about finding the right words. For instance, instead of saying, "you always," which can sound accusatory, you might say, "I feel, when," which focuses more on your own feelings. It's a good way to avoid sounding confrontational.
Great point. It's all about being considerate and respectful. And that brings us to some useful vocabulary. Words like compromise, negotiate, express, and listen are all crucial in good communication. For example, in a healthy relationship, both people should be willing to compromise.
Right, compromise is key. And then there are idioms like "on the same page," which means to agree with someone or understand each other. Or "bury the hatchet," which means to make peace after a disagreement. These expressions can really add color to your language.
Absolutely. And when things do get a little tense, it's helpful to clear the air, which means to discuss any issues openly to resolve misunderstandings. It's such a good practice to ensure everyone feels heard and understood.
And grammar can play a role too. For example, using conditionals can help express possibilities and suggestions. Like, "if you feel upset, you should talk about it," or "if we don't communicate, we might misunderstand each other." These structures help clarify intentions and expectations.
Exactly. It's all about making sure both sides are understood and feel valued. And for our viewers, how do you handle communication in your relationships? Do you have any tips or strategies that work for you? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, please share your experiences. Communication is a skill we all can improve, and it's great to learn from each other. Remember, it's not just about speaking perfectly, it's about connecting and understanding.
That's right. So, don't be shy, let's keep the conversation going. And if you're practicing your English, this is a perfect opportunity to use some of the phrases and grammar tips we've talked about.
You know, another fascinating aspect of relationships is how they can vary across different cultures. What's considered normal in one place might be completely different somewhere else.
That's so true. Take family structures, for example. In some cultures, the nuclear family, just parents and children, is the norm. But in others, the extended family is really important, with grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins all living close by or even in the same house.
Right. And these differences aren't just about who lives together, they also influence how families interact and celebrate. For instance, in some cultures, there are big family gatherings for holidays, while in others, celebrations might be more intimate.
Exactly. And then there's the way relationships are viewed. In some cultures, dating might be very casual, while in others, it's taken more seriously with the expectation that it could lead to marriage. These cultural customs and traditions can shape our expectations and experiences.
Yeah, and even the way people communicate within relationships can differ. In some cultures, being direct is seen as a good thing, while in others, people might be more indirect to avoid confrontation. It's really about understanding and respecting these differences.
Absolutely. And there's a great idiom for this: when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It means you should adapt to the customs and habits of the place you're in. It's a reminder to be open and respectful when encountering different cultural norms.
And from a language perspective, it's also interesting to see how certain words or phrases don't always translate perfectly. For example, the concept of family can have different connotations and levels of importance depending on the culture.
Definitely. It's a great reminder that language and culture are deeply connected. For our viewers, we'd love to hear about your experiences. Have you noticed any cultural differences in family and relationships? Maybe you've experienced them firsthand or learned about them through friends or media.
Yes, share your stories with us. It's always fascinating to learn about the diverse ways people experience relationships around the world. And remember, understanding these cultural nuances can really enrich your language learning and help you communicate more effectively.
That's so true. So, don't hesitate to tell us about your experiences and what you've learned. It's all part of broadening our horizons and becoming more understanding of the world around us.
It's been so interesting talking about family and relationships, especially seeing how different cultures approach them. It really shows how diverse and complex these connections can be.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot today, from the meaning of family to the importance of communication and even cultural differences. It's amazing how much there is to learn and appreciate about how we interact with each other.
And along the way, we've picked up some great vocabulary, idioms, and grammar tips. Like how to use possessive nouns, comparatives and superlatives, and conditionals to express ourselves more clearly. Not to mention some cool idioms like birds of a feather flock together and bury the hatchet.
Yes, and I hope everyone watching feels a bit more confident using these in their own conversations. Remember, language is all about practice and making connections, just like with relationships.
Exactly. And whether you're talking about your family, friends, or even a work colleague, being able to communicate effectively makes all the difference. So, keep practicing, keep exploring, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the learning process.
We're so glad you joined us for this episode. We love hearing your thoughts, so please continue sharing your experiences and any questions you have in the comments. Your input really enriches our discussions.
And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. We have lots more exciting topics lined up, so stay tuned.
That's right. Thank you all for watching and being part of our English with Philip and Sara community. We can't wait to see you next time.